Well, hello. How are you, my Hard Talks fam? It's your trippy hippie Alicia jumping on the mic from good old Utah. And this is Hard Talks with a blonde and a hippie.
Is this taboo?
I hope you've had a wonderful week and you haven't been too mad at me since I cut off our story a little short last week. But you're in for a ride. I hope you want to come for a little trip with me. You know, sit back, relax. If you have a little drinky in your hand, take a sip. And let's travel, all right? Not just to a different place, but back in time. You remember when you were young, dumb, 18, made not the best of choices? You know, like the last episode and the episode before I recorded. Yeah, we're kind of still on that kick here. So we're just carrying on, moving forward. But take a trip back to your 18th year and imagine what you were doing. You know, some 18-year-olds are a lot more responsible than others. But, and you know what? Some have their shit together. But I was just not one of them. And if you were a little bit of a shit show like me, well, doll, this one's for you. This is an 18 and up podcast. We talk all things controversial, difficult, taboo, wildly inappropriate, immature. I don't know. We curse like sailors. I just don't want to be responsible for your small children cursing in preschool. So you're welcome. Slide in on your own time. And we're happy that you're here. I appreciate you guys tuning in. We would not be here if it wasn't for you. We've gotten a lot more interaction with some listeners lately, and it's been really exciting. So shout outs to you guys. Your support means everything to us. So summer of 2013, the Italian trip. Bum, bum, bum. I hope your bags are packed and you didn't forget your toothbrushes, you nasties. We're going to talk about all my adventures, some of my misadventures, and a little bit of the nasty. Speaking of, like I said, I had always aspired to go over to Italy. Ever since I was a kid. You know, people have places that they dream of visiting their entire lives since childhood, and Italy was always a place for me. I felt like I was destined to go there. I didn't know why. I knew that we had a lot of lineage from there, but we're also Irish. So, you know, out of those two places, Italy is especially the place that I really wanted to visit. In Italy, Leopardi is a very rare name. If you know anybody with the last name of Leopardi, odds are we're probably related. It's a rare name even in Italy, and there's actually a famous poet named Giacomo Leopardi. People kept asking me about while I was over there, but I was like, no, I don't know them. But as I said in the last episode, plans move so fast, like, didn't think it would happen. It was a far-fetched idea, like, that good shit never happens to me, you know what I mean? Let's smoke this. But when it came down that I was officially going, plans and everything started to move very rapidly. And before I knew it, we were picking up my friends Ricardo and Elena, brother and sister, up from the airport. Like I said, we went to Cancun in May. I went to Italy in July. And even sooner than that, I believe my Italian friends came here at the end of June. Because I feel like we were all together on July 4th. I don't know. It was a trip of a trip of a trip, if you know what I'm saying. It was so long ago. I don't remember exactly, but it was really an incredible experience to get to know this brother and sister, Ricardo and Elena, the way that we were able to. It always sounds kind of scary or like it'd be awkward if you throw two strangers into a family mix for a month, you know what I mean? Or 6 weeks in our case. We were together for 6 weeks. And we were very lucky in the sense that
we all got along really well. You know what I mean? I'm sure there were moments where they were annoyed with us or sick of us, because that's a lot of time to spend with someone that you're just meeting. But we all got along so well. And when I look back in that time, it was an incredible experience. But Carmelo, the president of this company, he set everything up for us. He arranged the family who lived in Rome. He arranged and coordinated everything with us, so they knew that they were going to be safe coming out here. And it just worked out really well. And might I add, I have some funny ties to Carmelo also, because my paternal grandfather, my late grandfather, Enrico, he's from Italy, and they knew each other through my grandpa who worked for this company. You know, Carmelo would come out and check on the business or the company every now and again. And my grandpa, Dave, he was always very good about accommodating and making sure everybody felt like they were involved. So he introduced my grandpa Enrico to Carmelo, and they formed their own friendship, which was really cool to see. And then to have that as well when I went over, I had a connection with him on a different level rather than just being the guy who set everything up. You know what I mean? So very fortunate for that.
The really cool thing about Carmelo was he made it a mission to really try and give a cultural and enriching, potentially life-changing trip and experience to young people. And he offered that to many people my age before me. And so I don't know if having those personal ties to him, made it so I was especially under his wing when I was over there, but he really took the time to take us out to eat, spend time with us. He bought us some professional football jerseys, just a really upstanding guy. But I remember the first time meeting Ricardo and Elena. We were all really young, barely 18. And then Elena, I believe, was 15 or 16 because she was several years younger than us. And there was another guy from my high school. His name is Easton. Shout out to you, Easton. But he was a part of this amazing adventure as well. His mom worked for the company. And so they set this exchange program up as like a dual type of thing. And I was super glad that he was there because we got to experience what it was like to have our own language,
So they would stay with Easton, a few nights out of every other week. And then they'd come back to my house and we'd do things together. But when they first arranged it, I remember even talking to Easton. I was like, well, they're kind of getting chipped. You know what I mean? Like, what's cool about Utah? And when I met them and they first left the airport and were all wide-eyed and everything, that blessed me with a ton of perspective because I'd never left this country. You know what I mean? For one, the biggest and first thing that they noticed was the size of our streets. Holy shit, your streets are massive. And yes, I'd been to Cancun just a couple months prior, but we got shuttled from the airport and taken straight to the resort, and we didn't really leave the resort. We did leave the resort the second time I went around, years after, when my parents did want me to come. But again, it was like a shuttle or a bus, and they just dropped us off at clubs and whatnot, shuttled us back, etc. So I really had no idea. You see movies and all that, sure, the roads are skinny, but once you're over there, there are a lot of alleyways and roadways that you can't even drive a vehicle down other than a moped or a motorcycle. And the parking over there is obscene. You have a lot of smart car sizes, if that makes smart cars. Yeah, they have a lot of smart cars over there. But basically that compact car size, no matter what. The biggest vehicle they have over there is a Toyota SUV, a RAV4. No trucks. They're very rare. I truly, aside from businesses, grocers have trucks. Obviously they have garbage trucks, but that was crazy because try moving. Yeah. Out of like the flat you've been in for 3 generations or whatever. Like there's all in small, smart cars. That's how you're moving. But yeah, we pick them up. And I think the biggest shock to them was how many chain restaurants we had in the state of Utah. And I will say this, if you're living outside of Utah, we do have a very high number of chain restaurants. We don't have a lot of mom and pop shops here. Every 2-mile radius, we have a Burger King or an Arby's or a fucking Taco Bell. You know what I mean? Or McDonald's especially. You could find that shit anywhere. But, you know, that was their biggest thing when we're driving, because we picked them up at night and all the neon signs are lit up. And when you are driving north from the International Salt Lake City Airport, you're driving through the valley, all the towns. And if you go back to episode 2, I kind of mentioned that, like, Utah is laid out kind of in like a ribbon of cities, whereas other states or places, their cities are very spaced out or have a lot of distance between them. We do not. They literally just run together. So they're seeing all this, taking it all in, and it's literally like, ooh, ah, ooh. And it was like shocking to me, because it was like, you guys are the ones that are getting gypped. You know that, right? Like, I'm going over to Italy and staying with you. What is cool about Utah? But the great thing is, I had a lot to learn from Elena and Ricardo. You know, they had never seen any like desert landscape before. They had never seen an American grocery store. They had never seen an American mall. They were blown away at the sizes of our houses. You know what I mean? Like, you own all of this and you have a yard? Like, what? Like, it's fenced in? Holy crap. Like, so for me, that was kind of huge to take in, especially in showing them all the beautiful aspects and things that Utah has to offer, right? We showed them all the national parks. We brought them to Timpanogos Cave, which, you know, I've lived here majority of my life now. And I had never even been up to Timpanogos Cave before that. And it is fucking cool. And it's a fucking trek to get to the cave, but if you live here, well worth it. Very, very cool. We also have like a state park. So it's preserved by the state and cared for by the state, but it's Antelope Island.
My grandpa's been a volunteer ranger there forever, so that was a big deal for him to be able to take them there and show them that, because it's beautiful. If you have this long fucking causeway you go down, and there's all these buffalo there. It's quite the sight to see. We took a ferry out on the Great Salt Lake, and that was a first for me as well. So a lot of firsts in my own state, in my own home, in my own country with these guys. So it was a great trip for a lot of reasons.
You know, it was eye-opening for the first time in my life. I wasn't taking for granted how beautiful the place I lived in was. And it wasn't just that, you know, we took them to the Capitol building, and that is exquisite. If you've ever been in there, the architecture and the murals that they have in there is spectacular. But I mean, it was also seeing it from a different lens, a different perspective through their eyes, and it was amazing. It made me extremely grateful for what I had. Things that I wasn't even consciously aware of. Like, I remember the first time he ever tried pancakes. His favorite thing out of everything that he tried while he was here was pancakes. And I'll never forget that. Like, he was so mind blown. My mom made pancakes. My great grandma's famous recipe for pancakes. And he was just like, oh my God, these are so good. And I'm looking at them like, man, they're just pancakes. But I quickly learned they don't have pancakes in Europe. They're like crepes. It was amazing getting to know them and sharing all these very new and real experiences when I was really going through it. You know what I mean? I needed it more than anything. It did help me pull my head out of my ass a little bit. I was like, oh, there's shit going on in the world aside from my own. You know what I mean? There's other people in the world who are experiencing something totally otherworldly to me at this moment. And I wanted it. I wanted to be open-minded. I wanted to shed all my baggage and
learn as much as I could from the experience, really expand. But I didn't start this episode off saying I was young, 18, and dumb for no reason. I was distracted even then. And that's my biggest regret. Rather than taking in the whole experience and really reveling in it, I was worried and sending nudies to some fucker who didn't give a fuck about me.
I was with a guy. He was an ex-boyfriend before ex-husband, and it was very brief, but I thought I loved him. And, I spent my whole 3 weeks over there missing him and wishing he was there and buying him souvenirs. And I'm looking back on that at this moment as I'm recording. I'm like, ew. Why? Because he's a fucking narc. He was. But that doesn't matter. Anyways, that's not a part of the story. But when I went over there, me and Easton and Ricardo and Elena, it's a 13-hour flight, my guys. Holy bananas. And we had a stop in Atlanta, Georgia. And we almost missed our flight because we thought we were at the right gate, but then it turned out we were not. But we were on the opposite side because it may or may not have been my fault. I was chain smoking cigarettes like a fucking chimney back then. And, that's a long flight to freaking Georgia from Utah, okay? And this is before vaping was popular. So when we landed, I was like, oh my God, no, I need a cigarette break. And of course, everyone in the group is like, oh my God, like, seriously. I'm like, seriously, like, you don't understand. And so I trek my happy ass all the way to the one smoking area in this massive international airport, smoke half a cigarette before my friend Easton is knocking on the glass, the frosted windows. He's like, come on. I'm like, fuck, that was not worth it. And we would literally got on the plane at the last minute. So apologies, guys. That stress was on me. I will say, even though the flight was so fucking long, the cool part about it, yes, it was Delta. Fuck Delta. But still, I got to watch Gladiator, like, right before we landed. And I don't know if you guys have ever seen that either, but it was the best movie to watch as you're literally flying into Rome, because just the visuals in it, and then you land and it's so surreal. You're like, man, I've been imagining this place my whole life. And then you're with locals and they're like, oh yeah, this is nothing crazy, like nothing fancy. It's crazy what you can take for granted when you're around it every day. You forget to take in the beauty and splendor that goes with it, just like with our mountains. But by the time we finally arrived, it didn't feel real. We touched down, we get through customs, get our luggage, and their parents are waiting for us, Ricardo's and Elena's parents. And they're incredible people. They took us in like we were their own, got in about 12:30 in the afternoon, and they take us for a cappuccino, very strong. And at the time, I did not drink coffee, so I drank it to be polite. They bought it for me, but it was like my tongue shriveled up in my mouth. I would down that shit like nothing today, but we got a cappuccino. Go back to their flat, which is in the heart of Rome. And it was crazy in itself. Like, I mean, it's so densely populated in Rome. It's crazy to think that like so many people can pile into these like 2-bedroom flats, you know what I mean? But it happens all the time. And I think I got along best with their father, Cesare, which, to each their own. In America, they teach you how to say Caesar as Caesar. But in Italy, it's not Caesar. It's actually Cesare. That was a big mindfuck for me. But very nice guy. You know, I was really big into singing then. And he wanted to hear me sing all the time. And he kept giving me little mini cigars. And we would have long, heartfelt talks about life and philosophy and religion and architecture and traveling and everything you can imagine over cigarettes and wine or limoncello. And I definitely vibed with the culture over there. There's a reason Italians and Irishmen
Have the worst of both drinking worlds. And I've just been so blessed to have both.
It's not a problem over there. You have siesta. Go home and have some wine, take a little nap, go back to work, return home, have dinner at fucking 9 p.m. That's normal. Wake up at a leisurely time, have a croissant. You know, it's very relaxed. The people are happy there, or at least this is before the pandemic. It was in 2013, I will remind you. There's a big reunion, you know, a few friends of Ricardo and Elena's waiting there. You know, it'd been 3 weeks. They wanted to see their friends, and it was nice to gain a perspective of a local, you know what I mean, and meet other locals. And be in apartments of other locals' house. You know, like this is just a normal everyday thing and whatever. Have some wine. Let's bring it with us. You know, like that's. But anyways, we come in to this reunion and Maria Teresa, she hand cooked this amazing feast, amazing spread of food. And it was almost overwhelming. It was again like 12:30, 1 o'clock. And me and Easton are like, looking at this, it's a lot of seafood too, so it's like heavy stuff, and we're like, oh shit, like here we go. Like we sit down and she has some different things out there, you know, and I went with an open mind. I was like, I'm gonna try everything. The cuisine is what everyone talks about. And she has like a salad mixed with cucumbers and vegetables, but it's also with like octopus tentacles. And then there's some, you know, chicken marsala on the table, some eggplant, and then she brings out the main dish. And when she does,
It was straight up like that Indiana Jones scene. If you guys have seen, I think it's the second one, where they're in India and they're all at a dinner table and they bring out this massive snake and they cut it open and all the other live snakes come out of it. Yes, if you can visualize that right now, I'm pretty sure like that's the expression I had on my face when she brought out all this marvelous food, and I just felt like an asshole because it was shocking. It's like, are we supposed to eat the head? And she's like, yeah, that's the best part. And I couldn't bring myself to do it. No disrespect to you, Maria Teresa. If you hear this, you are phenomenal. You know, it's just my American ass seeing it for the first time. And she brings this out in a beautiful dish, puts it on the table, and it's like your giant shrimp, like your giant fucking shrimp, like bigger than my hand and up into my wrist, that giant of shrimp with eyeballs attached, with little leggies and antennas, and it was like all I could do just to not stare into the cold, beady eyes of these dead shrimp, because I was like, can we just take the head off? No, the head is good. The head is good. Yeah, I believe ya. That is one thing at that table I did not try. Easton tried it for me, and he said it was as to be expected. So he took one for the team. Thanks, man. They took us on a lot of adventures. We saw Venice, which was absolutely incredible. As incredible as everyone says. It is a little stinky. Your canals are filled with trash, just like our roadways are, which is very sad, very polluted. But I mean, God, the energy there, the atmosphere. I mean, I hate stigmas. I don't ever like to stereotype, but the people are so kind and welcoming there, and the houses are so close that they're literally like cleaning their rugs outside the windows, having conversations with the people across the alleyway from them, you know what I mean? And the food, the architecture, the Venetian masks, I mean, it was just incredible. They took us obviously through Rome, since that's where they lived for the most part. I got to see the Vatican. I got to see the Colosseum. I got to see the Pantheon. I got to see the Trevi Fountain. I got to take all this in, which seemed at one point like it would only be a dream ever in my life. And it was so surreal while I was going through it, especially since I was in my own world at the time. But I remember being so taken aback by just the sheer thought of all the history that had happened there. You know, I remember walking through the Colosseum or the ruins across the street from the Colosseum and just being like, oh my God, like every stone, every column that I'd touch, I'd be like, imagine what this is seeing. And they're looking at me like, yeah, sure. There was this plated cross that you were supposed to kiss when you walked into the Colosseum, and I go to do it and they're like, no, Alicia, no. I'm just like, you have to, you know. It's just funny. Not only did they take us to those places, but I also got to swim in the Mediterranean Sea. And it's beautiful there. It is a little bit of a drive from Rome, but not too far. Like in context, like if we're going cross country out of the United States, it's probably like 2 hours. So really not far. But it is dirty. Very, very dirty. A condom floated up to the side of us. And yeah, we had to throw that to the side. I didn't touch it. But I mean, the water is kind of green, Mediterranean. So that was interesting. They also took us to their village where their family is from. And it's in northern Italy. It's called Rocca di Mezzo. And it is, I mean, at least how I imagined it, you know, your cobblestone roads, very steep hills, you know, you have your colored shutters on every window. I mean, like the town square is the life of the village. You know what I mean? That's where your markets are. That's where the music is played. That's where all the dancing lights are and people go for connection and festivities. And that was actually very, very fun because their grandfather was turning 100 years old and they begged me to sing him happy birthday. And I'm, you know, very embarrassed, very shy of my singing. And so it took a lot of coaxing, but that was a very special experience to wish him a happy birthday and to be considered a part of their family, to be, again, taken in as their own. And what's even crazier is they drove us through Tuscany, which is actually more like a region. It's kind of how we view counties. It's not a city. So it's just like an area of Italy you drive through. And I mean, so many sunflowers, guys. And if you know me personally, like sunflowers are my flowers. Like sunflowers, anytime I see them, I just ignite with pure joy. Like they just bring me so much happiness. I can't even tell you where it came from. I just love sunflowers. And so driving through, it was incredible. You have fields and fields and fields of sunflowers. And we stayed in a little hotel and stayed in Tuscany as we made our way to Venice. That was our goal, I believe. But we made a pit stop one day on our way to Venice, and I will never forget it. It was an amusement park called Gardaland. A big ass fucking amusement park too. Like it was not small. It was not like a little carnival or fair. Like this was a well-established, very large amusement park on a waterfront and everything. And they had some crazy fucking different roller coasters. Like they had this one that was like a zipper. So you would go like straight and then you would become inverted and then you'd go back and then inverted. And so it wasn't like a fast loopy roller coaster, but it was just scary because you were literally upside down for majority of the ride. But it was really, really cool. It was Renaissance themed. I got a corncob pipe from there that, of course, broke before I could even make it on a plane, which was probably a good thing.
but that, that was an experience. They had this like flying saucer type ride. It was super tall. So it was like low to the ground. But then when it began, it would like lift up. It kind of reminded me of like the Space Needle in Seattle, if you know what I mean. That's what it looked like. But it was low to the ground at first, and then you'd get inside, and then it'd spin like your carnival ride. So you're literally like glued to the fucking wall. And if you upchuck, you're just fucked. But it just spin, and then it'd get to the top and kind of slow down, and you could kind of break away from the wall and be able to see the scenery, be able to look out, because there were like open little windows you could see out and see the lake or the ocean. I don't even know what it was, honestly. Like, I'm sure it was a part of the ocean because it was so vast, but it was beautiful. And I guess that's something I never really think about when I travel to other places or countries. Like, what kind of amusement parks do you have? But that was definitely a great experience. And I feel like maybe they got that idea because, of course, you guys know, when they were visiting, we had to take them to our amusement park called Lagoon. So maybe tradesies. But I think, honestly, one of my favorite parts of that whole trip, and I'll get to the embarrassing portions, but we went through Florence. I got to see the Leaning Tower of Pisa. I got to see the Statue of David. And what was remarkable about that is their parents, Ricardo and Elena's parents, had to work the following Monday. So they road tripped us out through Tuscany, took us to this amazing amusement park, took us through Venice, and then we kind of backtracked and went back to Florence, and they got us all set up at a hotel there. And then they were like, okay, we're going to drive back to Rome, because they had work the following Monday. But that was really cool. Like, I had never been trusted like that. And maybe it's because Elena and Ricardo were much better kids than me, and maybe my parents just didn't trust me for good reasons. But that was really one of my favorite parts of the trip. They set us up, like I said, in a hotel, and then we were on our own. And we were free to do whatever we wanted for the next, 36 hours. And also, if you know me personally, I have had this pink baby blanket that's made out of silk. It was made before I was born, when my mom was still pregnant with me. I've had it my whole life. And at this point, it's all raggedy and holey, and it's been sewn probably 300 times, and it's just a mess. And some family members just give me all the shit because they say I need to get rid of it, but I could never. That blanket has been through every life experience I've ever had. So no, the blanket's staying, but the blanket fell out of my bag and was literally dragging through a square throughout Florence for God knows how long. And it's not like a paved or tiled square. It's like your pebbly, dirty, rocky square with cigarette butts every 3 feet from each other, And so we finally get to this hotel, and I notice that my blanket's just been dragging on the streets in fucking Italy, and I pick it up. There are literally cigarette butts inside the lining of my blanket because there's so many holes. So I'm shaking it out. It's disgusting, and Ricardo and Ellen are just kind of laughing at me, but I forgot about that up until this point. That's funny. But we get set up in the hotel, and it kind of reminded me of a convent. Like, you had your very narrow twin beds with the ironclad headboard and baseboard, and it was 2 beds in a room. And I had a couple instances throughout that trip where it's almost like you get nervous to sleep in an unfamiliar place for the first time, or it's your first trip as an adult or being alone, and so it's kind of scary. But I don't remember ever feeling that way.
Instead, it was like invigorating. I think that's why this trip was so important, because it was my first time ever being out on my own, my first time ever taking my own liberties, being responsible. And I even remember thinking, my parents are nuts.
After we initially got settled, we made our way out into the town. And the best part of this is I already got to take it in the daytime.
Now I got to take it in at nighttime because it was a sight. I mean, we're walking through this square with open bottles of wine at 18 under the shadow of this Gothic church. Amazing church. Probably built in the 1500s. It's spectacular. And you can buy alcohol from pretty much anywhere. They have bottled wine for so cheap in every store you go into pretty much. And a lot of these stores or markets are really holes in the wall. There's construction going on constantly there because everything is so old. They're trying to maintain everything. But we're dancing under the moonlight and going through all these different stores, buying all this wine. Oh, I mean, also cigarettes were, I don't know now, but in 2013 were so fucking cheap. Like I could buy a carton of Marlboro Reds for literally like 28 euro. Straight up. I've never even bought a carton of cigarettes in the States because why would I? But I was there and I didn't want to smoke any of their mom's cigarettes anymore. I felt bad. And that's also another thing. Like, it's very, very, very common for kind of everyone to smoke over there. The little rebel baddie in me was like, oh, yeah. Because I was that shithead little teenager who was stealing my dad's cigarettes at 13. Yes, you heard me correctly. 13. I've quit smoking so many times it was ridiculous. But I go over there and I was like, man, no one's going to scold me for smoking a cigarette. We can have a smoke together and share a drink and a conversation, like an intellectual one. Like, wow, like these are my kind of people. I even came home with an unopened carton of cigarettes and hid it in my closet for months after. And my mom found it and literally broke them all up and threw them away in front of me. I was furious. But don't smoke, kids. It's not good for you. And you could be that teenager and be like, oh, I'm just a social smoker. Or I just smoke at parties with friends. But one day, you won't be able to say that because you'll be fiending and scrounging up all your change to go buy a pack of smokes. It's not worth it. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. But a good point that they brought up, which I didn't realize, as we're going through all these different cities, like we're noticing a lot of illegal aliens, like illegal immigrants there. A lot of merchants, a lot of people setting up things on the side of the road to sell. And so Easton asked them about him. They were like talking about how a lot of these merchants who set out a blanket and then literally fill the perimeter or inside of the perimeter of their blankets up with like glasses or like cheap items that you could easily lose that anyone would need to buy quickly. You know what I mean? Those kinds of merchants. They were talking about how most of them were black and how most of them were escaping civil war in Africa. So that was eye-opening to me too. They were like, you have an illegal alien problem in our country as well. And that's something obviously I'd never thought of because I don't live in Italy, but I think it was important for me to see that they experienced some of the same issues that we do in our country. You know what I mean? The Vatican is a sovereign state. It's completely separate from Italy's reign or government, if you will. But yeah, a lot of poverty, a lot of homelessness, and that was shocking. But yeah, that time in Florence will forever be a time that I cherish, of laughing under the moonlight, enjoying each other's company. And that's when I'm going to jump into the shit show Monroe portion of this story, because I was a jackass and still am. I'm playing both roles these days, guys. I'm your blonde and your hippie. But let's get into some of the nitty-gritty of this trip. We went and experienced some bars, and I saw a car get broken into because, as I was saying, like, the city of Rome or the entire country is so highly
and densely populated that their police, as they put it, are worried about other things. And I'll get into that in a second. But they lived so close to the center of Rome. You know, all we had to do was take like a 15-minute train ride to the Colosseum.
And one night, I'm begging them to take us out onto the town because they promised that they would. I've never been to a club, especially a European one. Are you kidding? I would shuffle these feet off like shit. So, you know, they finally were convinced. And like I said,
I didn't need an excuse to have a drink or a shot of limoncello. Let's all drink and be merry. Sounds good. Awesome. Have some porchetta. You eat, you look thin, you know? Like, have some wine with it, eh? Like, and the legal drinking age in Italy is also 18. It can be even younger if your parents are approving. Like, if you're at dinner and your parents give you a glass of wine at 15, like, no one's going to turn their head. You know what I mean? As long as it's consenting by the adult. So we take a tram with Ricardo's girlfriend at the time. Her name was Georgia. She was beautiful. Ciao, Bella. She kept calling me bruta, which means ugly. And I didn't catch on to that. There were a couple times actually where they told me to say a couple of things and I would, and then other people would like look at me like, oh, I'm gonna slap you, you know? Like, yeah, not good. They taught me to say something that sounded so beautiful and eloquent,
but in reality, it meant something very distasteful, and it did get me a lot of looks.
So I appreciated that, but we go to this bar after taking the train there, and we have to sign a waiver to get in. I don't know if it's because me and Easton were American. They said they've already been there, so they don't have to fill one out.
But we're meeting all of Ricardo and George's friends there, and it was a smaller bar outside, very, very beautiful, right on the canal. It was a hookah lounge. Imagine your 18-year-old hippie at a hookah lounge. She was buzzing. She was feeling pretty bad right then. Especially because all the Italian men, they wanted the Americano little blondie, you know what I mean? And I'm over there, oh, I have a boyfriend, playing hard to get, and really I'm just like, don't look away. So yes, now that you got the visuals, you can definitely imagine. You're there with me. You ready? You got your drink in hand? Because it's just going to turn into even more of a shit show quickly. At that point, for sure, I remember laughing to myself and thinking, man, my parents are crazy for trusting me this much. And man, I learned very, very quickly, like I said, that the joke is on me, guys. The joke is always on me. I make bad decisions when I'm drinking. Hence, why I have not been drinking. Whoa, full circle there. Holy shnikes. But anyways, we signed this waiver. And at the time, I was really into American Horror Story. I was in love with Taissa Farmiga. And if you don't know who she is, I love her. Go look her up. But I signed my waiver under Taissa Farmiga. And of course they didn't care. Like, they didn't even check my passport to verify. But I think it was mostly for a liability, you know, in case ridiculous, drunken 18-year-olds come in and get way too fucked up in your establishment. That's why we had to sign a waiver. And I'm sure the bartender saw me and I just had a big stamp on my forehead that said fucked up on it. Because by that point, you guys, I was ready.
Turn it up a notch. Come on, guys, drink with me. Let's go. Let's go. Let's order some shots. And suddenly, I'm experiencing something very similar to my Cancun trip.
You know, guys, it took me a lot of years to learn that you can learn from your lessons, because I would just repeat the same shit over and over again and expect a different outcome. Nay. Wake up feeling miserable every time. Trust me. Now, this was similar to Cancun, not because the alcohol was free, but because I made some bad choices that night and the next night, and the alcohol there is a monster.
But I think it was like 3 times as potent. Like, and that sounds crazy. Like, Mexican tequila is like paint thinner. Could literally, and this alcohol was like 110% proof. I don't even know if that's fucking possible. But it was very similar to Everclear. If you like take a shot of Everclear, your tongue literally like dries up. Like it's so strong that it's like your asshole pinches. Like it's intense. Me being 18 and stupid, as we've very much established throughout this episode, is like, give me one of your best shots, your signature shot.
And everything after that was kind of just like a chain reaction. We're going to name the bartender Alejandro because he was beautiful. But I remember his nice, bold eyebrows lifting. They're like, oh, okay, American. Like, I can get you that. And then I remember Cardo grabbing me on the shoulder, and he's like, I don't know if you want to do that, because this is the second bar that we've been to, so we'd already been drinking and throughout the day. So he's like, I don't know, you need to be careful. I'm like, yeah.
And Ricardo, I love you. But at the time I was like, come on, man. Kind of my mother. Same thing. Don't be a pansy. Don't be a pansy, my guy. Drink with me. Let's be merry. Hey. I don't know why I keep saying A. They don't do that at all. But
even Easton's drinking with me, and I look back on that, I can't imagine what he was thinking. God, he didn't drink much, and I was consistent, you guys. But he only got drunk with me a couple times after we went to that amusement park, and while we were driving up in one of their tiny cars up a canyon to this castle we visited, like, he was getting car sick. So we thought it'd be a good idea to drink on the way up. It was a dandy time. But I'm in this pencil skirt, like this tight pencil skirt, and this is the second bar we're at. So it's in the middle of an alley. Like, it's just one of those ones you pull up the door and it's just that, a bar. He's making these drinks, and what were there? There was me, Ricardo, Elena, Georgia, and Easton, and then I think a couple of their buds. So maybe 7 or 8 of us. But sweet bartender gets done making our drinks. Ciao, Taisa. Saluda. Thank you. This shot is layered to resemble the Italian flag. Deja vu, right? Red, white, and green, or red, clear, and green in this case. That should have been my first red flag. Don't take it. Don't take it. Weren't you in Cancun 3 months ago and you almost died drowning in the ocean? I should have seen the signs and followed them. But is it kind of crazy just to me that, like, both the Mexican and the Italian flag are basically the same, just the Mexican flag has a bird emblem in the middle? Yeah. You're welcome. But the liquor's flowing. And then I ask for the signature shot that just does me over the edge. Like, the back of my mind knew I would. Of course, he set it on fire just for the special effects. And I remember. Your trippy hippie was thinking she was tripping. But really, it just went straight to my head, and it felt like I was tripping. Things proceeded to play out like they did in Cancun. And it was just as terrible, if not worse. I remember making a cheers with everybody, a nice little toasty, and, salud. Throwing it back, and immediately being like, oh my God, I'm going to lose my fucking cookies. I'm going to lose my cookies. We're not getting those cookies today. We're fucking losing them, and I'm going to tell you why. That liquor hit my stomach so wrong that I immediately turn around because we're in an alleyway. You know what I mean? And then Ricardo's friend Alessio, the one who'd been hitting on me the whole trip, he turns to me and he's like, oh, before you get sick, do you want some of this? And he pulls out like this parchment paper, this folded parchment paper. I'm like, I don't know what that is, He's like, oh, girl, it's good. He's like, it will make you feel better. He was like, it's hash, which is really common in Europe and Middle Eastern countries. But if you don't know what hash is, it's a drug made by compressing and like processing like cannabis down to its densest form. You could even condense it even more down to wax or dab. But, hash is in this parchment paper, similar to wax, and you can roll it into a joint, vaporize it, smoke it, But he was just like, yeah, no, just try this. It will make your sick feel better, speaking in broken English. And again, we're in this fucking alleyway, so I'm just trying to hold it together. And I'm like, yeah, okay, like I'll have it. And he's like, you smoke? I was like, oh yeah, I smoke for sure. But at that point in my life, I had never tried dab or wax or hash. So when he's done rolling this, I take a pretty good sized puff. And I should have known better, because this was not to be trifled with. But oh my Hannah, oh my Lanta, oh my goodness, all the oh my Lantas. Because you're stupid hippie. Cannabis is supposed to help nausea sometimes, but that smacked and elevated my drunken state to a whole nother level. I, in this adorable black pencil skirt, turn around and toss these said cookies all over down the front of myself, all cascading down this wall on Alessio's feet. And I am just like, oh my fucking God, that did not just happen. And I'm trying to clean myself off, trying to, not look like a mess. And on comes running over Dad Ricardo, and he's like, I told you. He's rightfully annoyed with me. He's like, I told you. And he's like, we're leaving now. And me and my rebellious 18-year-old state, I'm like, no, I'm not going anywhere until all the oh my Lantas. You're stupid hippie. And as we're having this conversation, a car not fucking 10 yards from us has a window smashed in. And this guy literally smashes it in with his elbow, looks around, looks up straight at us, looks us dead in the eyeballs, and then turns back to the car and proceeds to rob everything out of it. And it wasn't like it was much. It was a lot of change, it sounded like, and God knows what. But, me in my drunken state of mind, and now stoned on whatever state of mind, I'm like, oh my God, we need to call somebody. Hello, that fucking car just got broken into. Ricardo grabs my shoulder and he's like, hey, you are okay. Oh, we are okay. That does not matter. I'm literally like, what? Like, we should report this. And he's like, no, the police are too busy. What? Yeah, the police are too busy. Let them be. Like, they don't even recall and report that shit. And that was fucking mind-blowing to me. God. And I will say, too, that was the only time I got stoned on that entire trip, which was big for me at the time, because I spent most of my days being blissfully unaware and highly under the influence of cannabis. And that whatever that was, it did not work well with me. And we did go home after that because I was a little sketched out, and I can only imagine what poor Easton was thinking. He's like, this girl's a mess. I don't know her. I ain't drinking. Let's go back. I just want to go to a bed in a cool apartment, because it's really freaking humid in Italy. That was another big thing. Like, the air is like, it reminds me of Minnesota. Like, in summertime, it's just so hot and muggy. Like, if you curl your hair, it's going to be flat and stringy within the next 2 hours. So don't bother. That was one of my shit show moments on that trip. Definitely not embarrassing. You know what I mean? Here's another one for you. As I mentioned earlier in this episode, I was talking about Carmelo. And he is the gentleman who truly made all this happen. He is the backbone of all of these trips. It was just really incredible that he cared enough to take the time out of his crazy busy schedule and treat us to dinners and, different events. And I felt bad because I have so much respect for the man, but the first meal he bought me, he even asked me, he was like, and this is at a very fine restaurant. We're dressed to the nines.
It's a big deal to meet with Carmelo because he is like the guy, the owner of every location of this international multi-million dollar, broadcasting company. And so I felt like we were all trying to make a good impression, not only for ourselves, but because that was Cesare's boss. You know what I mean? It wasn't just a big deal for me. And so when he wanted to buy me dinner and order it for me, it was like, oh yeah, like, you know what you're ordering? Absolutely. He goes, Alicia, you like ravioli? Oh, see, I like ravioli. I love ravioli. Yes, yeah, see, Carmelo. Great. He orders the same for himself. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be good. And if you've never dined in Europe, it takes some time. So it's like a 15-course fucking meal. And it's always at like 8:30, 9 o'clock. So we're being served bruschetta and wine and meat plates, salami, pepperoni, porchetta, which is pork, and, chicken, and a lot of raw fish, shrimp, and squid is very popular over there. And so I'm just trying to make it through to the entree. You know what I mean? We finally get there, and this is a beautiful plated dinner. I'm excited. Dive in, and these are big raviolis too, probably like bigger than my palm. So I scoop one up, throw it into my mouth, chomp down. And I was immediately sorry because I started chewing and it was not filled with meat or cheese. It was filled with caviar. And if you're into caviar, fish eggs, to each their own. No judgment. Like, I know that's a delicacy. It really is. That's why I felt so bad, because it was repulsing. Like, I love sushi. I love seafood, but I cannot. I'm a big texture person. I cannot do the popping of the fish eggs when you take bites. It's not for me. And I felt horrible because it was also in this like dark oil. I'm not a chef by any means, so I don't even know, like a truffle oil. And it was just very hearty, if that makes sense. Very, very, I don't even have words for it. Do you think I finished the whole plate? Because this is a big fucking plate. Abso-fucking-lutely I did, because I was not about to embarrass myself or my family or my host family, for that matter, for not accepting this plate of delicacies from Carmelo. And I tell you, that was the longest meal. I don't think I've sweat more throughout a meal. I think I left like sweat marks on that leather chair when I got up, but I finished it and I went home and I puked that night as well. And hey, I was just proud that it wasn't alcohol induced. But it's something else I might want to mention, because I definitely made good use of it. I mentioned how hot and humid, muggy it was there. Like, it's almost customary for people to take multiple showers a day just to cool off. And my God, me in that bathtub that they had there. Hey, Grandma, tune out. My Italian friends, don't want to be disrespectful and tell you all the nasty things I did in your bathtub, so you plug your ears. But man, you had the best freaking masturbating bathtub. And it was like one of those freestanding ones. We had to take so many showers throughout the day. I was beginning to worry, like I had like a problem, you know what I mean? Every time I'd go into the bathroom, it was like, do I have time? Hey, it's a natural thing. They had a detachable hose. I'm innocent in this, all right? I had to make it interesting for myself, and it definitely made good content for sexting, all right? It was definitely the best boyfriend I could have had over there at the time. Hey, and you know what? Don't be blushing in your car, because I know you guys, you're little nasty things too, and we're all a little horny, okay? Grandmas too. All right, you need to flick the bean every now and again, especially in a beautiful place like that. So shh,
And all I'm going to say about that is once you find the good, you don't stop until your toes are curling and you can't help but scream a little bit, all right? And when people question it, just say, I didn't hear that. If you're really worried about it, blast some music at the same time. Or you could try and double tap it where you have the sink running and conceal it with the sound of the water from the tub. You know what I mean? You could get a little creative. When people question why you were in there for so long, just blame it on tummy troubles, all right? They had tummy troubles coming over to America because our food is so shitty, and we had tummy troubles going over there because our food is so clean. So I could get away with it. Your guys' vaginas are calling. You're welcome. But no, really, this trip was exquisite. You know, I've said this throughout the past several episodes, but in the headspace I was, where I had to grow up so quickly, this was such an exuberant experience for me because it was refreshing to take a step back and be young again, be my age again, and live life to the fullest. You know, for the first time in a long time, I had all these opportunities and the world didn't seem so scary. And it was important because I had a lot of invaluable life experiences, you know, being young, dumb, 18 and angry at the world. I went over there and made a lot of mistakes that I needed to make at some point or another in my life. You know, I had my first life lesson in what it took to be financially responsible. I went over there and maxed out 2 credit cards and spent everything that I had brought over there in savings, and I fucked myself. I dug a big hole. They have a lot of pop-up markets, so they have a lot of really nice clothes, or trinkets or whatever for like wholesale prices. And then you go into like your really nice areas like Milan, where it's like all fashion and design and really luxurious, expensive clothing. So yeah, I blew that budget out of the water really quick. And I then proceeded, because like many things I didn't quite understand at 18, I didn't understand that every time you pulled money out, if you didn't have money in your account, you could get an overdraft fee. So I maxed out 2 credit cards with $1,500 limits. And then I proceeded to spend over $500 and get a $25 overdraft fee every single time I overdrafted. So by the time I got back from that trip, my credit was fucked anyway at that age. But I think I owed something near like $9,000 to my bank and to credit card companies. And so, I mean, I don't know. It was very educational in a lot of ways. Definitely never did that again. But I also made bad decisions like getting drunk and making out with people who barely speak English. You know, word to the wise, not that wise. And oh my God, I can almost hear you guys screaming at me. Alicia, no, what about the herp? Hey, don't worry. That was a thought of mine as well. And I'm free from the herpesif. When we were in Rocket de Mezzo, Ricardo's friend Alessio tagged along, and he had a keen eye for me, the Americano, you know. And even though I had a boyfriend, it was a very starry night, a very crisp and cool night. You know, the wine was flowing, the food was good. It was late, and we had to walk up this big ass hill to get back to their house in this village. And it's just me and him because everyone else kind of went off on their own. This was during the portion where Ricardo's parents were not there anymore. So it was just us kids. And I got lost. I couldn't figure out my way back to the house. And so Alessio, being the gentleman he was, it's like, oh, I will help you. No problem. We get not 3 minutes into this walk, and suddenly he's holding my hand, and suddenly he's telling me nice things in broken English, and I'm just licking it up. Lap, 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 lap. Y'all, if I was a dog in that moment, I would have been a fucking lap dog. Because like, it wouldn't have mattered what anyone would have said, I don't think. I literally probably would have been like, lap, 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 licking it up. Give me some more. Oh my God. I was a neat needy little thing. But ain't nothing wrong with being needy, my friends. Anyway, back to Alacio. You know I'm drunk in this moment, of course. I mean, that should be already assumed. And he's there, you know, caressing my face under the moonlight, saying all these sweet things. I want to sex you. I want to sex you, really sexy. And, oh, you're so beautiful. Oh, yes. We will go on a great adventure. Well, this is the best adventure we're getting, because it never happened. But it did get close. I'll give him that. Aces for trying. We're walking up to the building, and suddenly we're making out a little bit. And it's romantic, and we're under the stars. And then I'm like, oh, fuck. You know, I have that itching, guilty feeling in the back of my mind. Oh, I technically have a boyfriend. But what does that mean at 18? You know, I have a boyfriend. Oh, no, you don't. Yes, I do. Oh, no, you don't. I will make you feel good. I'm sure you could, my guy. But hey, suddenly we end up at the top of a porch on someone's literally like front patio, right at the front of their door. You know, it was under the eave of their roof, so it was dark, you know, because we're all shady like. And the tension's building, and I'm letting go of those guilty feelings, and I'm ready. Suddenly, fucking on these strangers' porch seemed like the best thought that any man had ever thought up, you know what I mean? And we would have gone there. But, you know, I don't know the laws for public indecency in Italy, but he just wouldn't stop talking, and every time he was like, "I'ma sex you," it was like a mood killer. You know, between kisses, "I'ma sex you." Oh, I'ma sex you good. You know, it's like, the making of the sex probably not gonna be making, because you just ruined it. But it's like, fuck. What I really should have done is say fuck it and just fucked while I was in Italy. Oh, my ring for sex bell is breaking. That's what I should have done. I should have let my freakiest flag fly. I should have, you know, done what I do, and fucked in Italy. But, you know, hindsight, still would have been a terrible decision. Whatever. But, you know, to say that happened at least is funny. Shoulda, coulda, woulda. That whole trip. I mean, I could go on forever. It's been so fun recording this episode because I really haven't revisited a lot of these memories in so long. I've remembered a lot that I've forgotten. It's just a fucking rowdy, funny, incredible trip. But anyway, that was my 18th year. That was the summer your hippie went wild, 2013. The year that Robin Thicke came out with his song, Blurred Lines. I know you want it. I know I want it. I'm getting words wrong. You got blurred lines. Ooh. Yeah, that song was my jam in 2013 over this trip. It kind of gives you a better picture of what was happening. Amongst the rolling hills of Tuscany and the beautiful pastures of Rocca di Mezzo, I got to experience some things that I only ever dreamed of. And I was very, very fortunate to make long-lasting good friends. And I'm bold enough to say, and it's been long enough to say, that, hey guys, I'm sorry if I acted like a fucking fool while I was there, but I appreciate you for your hospitality. I appreciate you for the friendship and maintaining contact with me over the years. I will be back because I made a wish in the Trevi Fountain that I would return. And they say if you make a wish in the Trevi Fountain with pure intentions, you are meant to return. So I will be back. I love that. Also, I'm very appreciative to my family for gifting me with the opportunity to not only go over there and have so many amazing experiences, but also granting me the gift of self-awareness and perspective, to take a glance of what it would be like to live in a different place or in someone else's shoes.
if you guys enjoyed this episode, please let me know because, I'm just shit show. And I like to know when something I do comes off as right because most of the time I'm just throwing it together. That is not true. But most of the time I just feel like I'm hanging on by the edge of my seat. And I love to hear from you guys. It means a lot to me. If you want to give us a follow on Instagram and Facebook at Hard Talks with B&H, you can definitely do so. If you want to email into the show at hardtalkswithbnh@gmail.com, just to connect with us, share perspective, give us some suggestions on some topic ideas you'd want us to cover, whatever. We love to hear from you. If you want to catch exclusive bonus content, you can follow us and become a patron on Patreon. It's patreon.com/Hard Talks with B&H podcast. I know that is long, but if you do go to our Instagram page and click on the link in our bio, Patreon will pop up right at the top. To Ricardo, Elena, Maria Teresa, Carmelo, Cesare, to Anna in Milan, to my friends and family, to those who are listening in Sicily, I want to tell you, it has been such a rad experience getting to talk with you, getting to know you, getting to record this, this episode because it's been so long since I've revisited these memories and they were good ones. So I appreciate you. I appreciate you all listening. I appreciate it if you've made it this far. As I've said, you make this production worthwhile. And I can't wait to continue creating more and connecting with you. I hope you all have a good, epic rest of your week. If you're struggling today, don't worry. It's going to get better. You just have to hang on. I love you so much. Be kind, be wise, stay smart. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. Like getting drunk and puking all over yourself in 2 different countries within a 3-month time period of each other. Yeah, just be safe. Till next week, guys. I love you. Bye.
Glad you'd buy. Hard talk about them.
Yeah.